Hello, my name is Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for July 10th to July 16th. And on July 10th, we have the sun. You can see it denoted right here by this black circle with a dot in it. It's in Cancer. It's also in the 53rd hexagram. And on the outside of the wheel, we have the chop mark for the 53rd hexagram, numbered from bottom to top. The 53rd goes yin, yin, yang. Yin, yang, yang. And then the 53rd hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here, this is the 53rd gate of beginnings development. Development is a structured progression that is both steadfast and enduring, located in the root center in an abstract collective energy path in the sensing circuit called the Channel of Maturation, a design of balanced development that connects to its harmonic. The 42nd gate of growth, increased expansion of resources, which maximizes the development of full potential. I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person that I use as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we have the following activated gates on July 10th. We have the sun in the 53rd gate with the earth in the 54th gate. The north node is in the 64th gate with the south node in the 63rd gate. Mercury is in the 62nd gate. Venus is in the 56th gate. And Mars is in the 43rd gate. Jupiter is in the 47th gate. Saturn is retrograde and it's in the 9th gate. We have Uranus in the 42nd gate. Neptune is retrograde in the 63rd gate along with the south node, and Pluto is retrograde in the 54th gate that it shares with the Earth. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. And as we begin the week, we've got two channel definitions due to the transit field. With the North Node in the 64 and Jupiter in the 47, we have the Channel of Abstraction, design of mental activity mixed with clarity until August 3rd. The energy of this channel is about creating something new out of something old. This is about abstract thought being brought into collective consciousness through the arts, philosophy, history, and culture. It's wonderful energy for telling stories about our experiences that inspire others, but it brings confusion when used to try to resolve our own issues. And the defined head center can influence those without to have pressure to think about things that don't matter. And the defined oddness center can influence those without to believe that they're certain of something even when they're not. And with the sun in the 53rd gate and Uranus in the 42nd gate, we've got the Channel of Maturation, design of balanced development until July 12th. For people who have this in their birth chart, this is about if they make a commitment, it has to be followed to its conclusion, which can take 7 years. So this could be a time to be cautious about starting something new. The best way to know if you should begin something or not is by following your strategy and authority. And be careful about making a commitment because it's very difficult to get out of it later. It's the energetic where we may experience the same thing over and over again if we try to abort it before completion. The wisdom of this channel is that all life is a journey that never ends. And we may feel more deeply attuned to the cycles of life for a few days as we're more apt to notice planetary cycles, body cycles, historical cycles. And for those without a defined root center, this transit, it can bring pressure, which may have folks hurrying to get things done in order to release their stress. And the defined sacral center for the non-generator types may have them feeling busy and they have an endurance to work. They also may think they know when enough is enough, which could lead to the premature or abrupt ending to something that really needs more time. July 10th begins with the sun in the fourth line of the 53rd hexagram. The sun in the 53-4 is assuredness, exalted, the ability to maintain the strength of one's individuality in complex, often awkward situations that ensure continued security and development. The pressure to maintain one's individuality in confused beginnings, detrimented. The persistent difficulty with embarrassing and awkward situations where normal emotional reactions may prove detrimental. Individual pressure for beginnings that creates awkward and sometimes embarrassing situations. And then later on the 10th, the sun then moves into the 5th line of the 53rd hexagram, and that happens at 1:34 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 1734 UT. The sun in the 53-5 is described as assertion, exalted, the underlying and often psychic recognition of the intrinsic values of development that even in periods of isolation has the assertiveness to maintain direction. Its very power garners continued support even from those who are basically oppressed. The pressure to recognize the value of development and the energy for beginnings regardless of circumstances. Detrimented and over-assertiveness that rather than applied to maintaining support in the face of opposition and isolation may actually strengthen the opposing forces by its attitude, where the energy for beginnings attracts the very forces that can abort them. On the 11th, the sun then moves into the 6th line of the 53rd hexagram at 1:10 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 1710 UT. The sun in the 53-6 is phasing, exalted, the successful utilization of completion of successful utilization of the completion of a stage of development that by its evident success and value can be used as an example to attract support for the next stage. The energy to attract support for beginnings based on the success of the past. Detriment, the tendency in this position to hide success in a perverse fear that success will either create excessive demands or supporters of the original process will end their support upon completion. The pressure to hide beginnings in fear of losing past support. On the 12th, the sun then moves from the 53rd hexagram and gate and into the 62nd gate, as Mercury actually moves from the 62nd to the 56th, about 10 hours ahead of the sun entering into the 62. And then the Earth moves from the 54, leaving behind Pluto, and it moves into the 61st hexagram and gate. So we have the Earth is in the 61st hexagram. This is the gate of mystery, inner truth, the awareness of universal underlying principles. And this shift happens at 12:45 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 1645 UT, with the sun in the 62nd gate of detail, the preponderance of the small, caution, patience, and detail produce excellence out of limitation. The sun is, of course, in the first line of the 62, which is described as routine, exalted, the ability to transcend boredom of routine through a rich and daring fantasy life, the ability to organize the detail through fantasy, detriment, rebellion, and its enormous waste of energy and the need for expression through which ignores the details. And as we move from the 53, which of course means we no longer have these defined, as we move from the 53 to the 62, we enter the gate of sharing collective detail. It's a logical throat gate that sees the patterns and expresses itself by saying, I think or not. The gate 62 is part of the understanding circuit, and it's the gate of naming things. It's harmonic. The 17th gate is the gate of sharing collective opinions in the channel of acceptance. The 62nd gate expresses logic through formulas based on facts. Its polarity, the 61st gate of inner truth, brings the pressure to think. Inner truth comes from detail. This is the quarter of civilization's cross of Maya. Words were originally magic, and the magic of gate 62 is to be able to describe things so that they can be communicated and understood. Naming things makes them real, and the creation of language, grammar, and structure all came out of the 62nd gate and hexagram. Also on the 12th, as I mentioned earlier, Mercury moves from the 62nd gate into the 56th gate, where it joins Venus. Mercury is, in mythology, the messenger of the gods. So this is about communication, or as Ra put it, the expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also as music. And it's in the gate of stimulation, the wanderer, stability through movement, the preparation of continuity through the linking of short-term activity. Mercury is in the first line of the 56th, which is described as quality, exalted, the practical sense that even short-term activities should be of value, the expression of practical ideas that have value, detriment of the ego drive to make an impression that will misuse energy in trivial pursuits, the drive to stimulate that will express any idea, no matter how trivial. And in the program, Mercury is about expression through communication. It influences the homogenized population to communicate about the themes of the gate and line that transiting Mercury inhabits. Its primary impact is psychological, and it impacts the not self-mind. It distorts the way we look at things in a way that leads to action. This conditions people to think and communicate about the same things. So in the 56th gate, I expect to hear people talking about I believe or I don't believe. On the 13th, the sun then moves into the second line of the 62nd hexagram at 12:21 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 1621 UT. The sun in the 62-2 is described as restraint, exalted, the innate restrictiveness and discipline to comply with and exalt restraint, the discipline necessary for detailed work, detrimented, the intellect stymied by severe restraints to lead to anxiety and restlessness, the expression of anxiety and restlessness when faced with detailed work. And then also on the 13th, Venus moves from the 56th, leaving behind Mercury, and it moves into the 31st gate and hexagram. Venus is about values, morality, law, natural law, in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us, according to Ra. Venus is in the 31st gate of leading, influence, the law of friction, whether active or passive, that engenders transference and thus influence. And Venus is in the first line of the 31, which is manifestation. Influence cannot exist in a vacuum. Exalted, the sun cannot hold back its light, and thus its influence on every life. The natural expression of leadership, detrimented, the absorption of light that in darkness may only promise manifestation, the unnatural expression of leadership. And in the program, Venus is about control through maintaining the status quo in a way in which we operate with each other. We experience the transiting planets through the Maya, and we're not here to avoid the Maya, but to embrace it as yourself through following your strategy and authority. And then on the 14th, the sun then moves into the third line of the 62nd hexagram at 11:57 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's 15:57 UT. The sun in the 62-3 is discovery, exalted, a genius for the unusual, the ability to discover valuable information in detailed work and to find innovative applications for this knowledge, the unusual gift of finding and expressing valuable details. Detrimented, a dissatisfaction with the monotony, dissatisfaction with the monotony of detailed work, where what is missed may be of great importance and value. The expression of dissatisfaction and boredom in detailed work. And then also on the 14th, Mercury moves from the 56 and joins Venus in the 31. And Mars moves from the 43rd gate in the hexagram to the 14. All right, so we've already talked about Mercury being about communication. So what might be communicated when we have Mercury in the 31? Well, I'd expect to hear people say, I lead or I don't lead. This is the gate of leading influence, the law of friction, whether active or passive, that engenders transference and thus influence. And Mercury in the first line of the 31 is again manifestation. Influence cannot exist in a vacuum. Exalted, the sun cannot hold back its light, thus its influence in the everyday life, the natural expression of leadership. Detriment and the absorption of life that in darkness can only promise manifestation, the unusual expression of leadership. And Mars moving from the 43 to the 14, this is the gate of power skills, possession in great measure, the accumulation and retention of power through skilled interaction, coupling grace with control. Mars is in the first line of the 14th hexagram, which is money isn't everything. The recognition that wealth has its own problems. Exalted, the lust for lucre, tempered by higher principles. The key to manifesting power is higher principles. Detriment to the delusion that you can throw money at problems. Energy alone can never be the key. And Ross spoke about Mars being an extraordinary and immature energy resource that lacks refinement and is subject to outbursts. Mars in the program is about expression through mutation. This plays out on the mundane plane as change. These changes that take hold in the homogenized world as fads or trends. This is an illusion because the population is ready for the same changes at the same time because of transiting Mars. On the 15th, the sun then moves into the fourth line of the 62nd hexagram at 11:32 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 15:32 UT. The sun in the 62.4 is asceticism. Exalted, the perfected ascetic, withdrawal in the pursuit of harmony and simplicity, where outside dangers do not exist. And there is a time to pursue inner meaning in detail, the detail that can only be expressed after periods of isolation and reflection. Detriment, the urge to take action against established values that when restrained by circumstances lead to withdrawal, that waits for opportunity, where the detail is organized, isolation as a strategy waiting for right opportunity for expression. And then on the 16th, the sun then moves into the fifth line of the 62nd hexagram at 11:08 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That's 15:08 UT. The sun in the 62.5 is described as metamorphosis. When excellence is achieved, action is necessary. Exalted, the reaching out to others to share, symbolized by the moon's phases as it moves from darkness to eventually sharing fully its light. The understanding that only when the details are complete can action or expression be initiated. Detriment, the tendency in metamorphosis to seek acclaim through dramatic presentation, where the details are organized, the need for attention demands expression. And well, I'd like to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be for July 17th and available on the 16th, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. And you can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you have any questions or you wish to schedule a reading. So if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I would love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA, or we can connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And as always, I am blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for these ancient mysteries, their synthesis and application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste and Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. All my best to you, and look forward to connecting with you in the future.